The Senate will come to order. But joining us today to do the pledge for us is a former staff member and a forever daughter of Senator Scheffel. Maria, please join us to do the pledge. And why don't you bring one of those bells? We're going to need a bigger bell. Just like old times.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say thank you to Maria for joining us. Before we do the roll call, we have some special music, if you hadn't guessed already. Senator Scheffel and Senator, which one first? The Majority Leader, of course.
So thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order for purposes of receiving a musical interlude.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that, especially being one of the Democrats you might like to not see next week. So, with that, I understand that some of my constituents were just passing by this morning, and so I've asked them to come in and perhaps perform. We have the Colorado Christian University Handbell Ensemble, directed by Dean Steve Taylor of the School of Music, which is nicely snowed in there along Garrison right now. Their first piece, I think, is very fitting with the weather, so let it go. Dean Taylor.
Colleagues and guests, you may be seated if you'd like, or you can stand up and jam to the bells. Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Those of you without 9-year-old daughters might not know that the movie that is taken from is called Frozen, and that is why it's so apropos for us this week, perhaps next week as well. Next, I believe, we're going to hear a rendition of Didn't My Lord Deliver Daniel? And Mr. President, I've heard that perhaps you might be joining in one of these, so we'd love to have you join in as you might.
So having my bell rung many times since I was a bell ringer, I'm going to pass today. But bravo, I'm sure requests are not in order, but an encore is, please. Is it our understanding that there is one more encore available? And we've had encouragement? And there has been a request that you join us on days that end in AY here. So we start at 10 on Mondays and 9 the other days. One more. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we ought to just call it a day. Thank you. Mr. Majors, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Balmer, Baumgartner, Carroll, Cook, Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman, Heath, Hill, Hill,
Absent. Hold on.
Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston,
Excused.
Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez Jimenez, Merrifield, Neville, Newell, Roberts, Scheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Todd, Ulibarri, Woods. Mr. President,
Here. 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Martinez Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal for February 26th be dispensed with and the journal be adopted as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the perfect motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. The journal is approved. Committee reports.
February 26, 2015, Committee on Finance, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following Senate Bill 133 be amended as follows and as amended for the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
Senate Services.
February 27, 2015, correctly engrossed Senate Joint Resolution 8, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 87, 106, and 121, correctly revised House Bill 1023, correctly re-revised House Bills 1021, 1047, and 1121, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29.
Message from the House.
February 26, 2015, Mr. President, the House has voted to concur in Senate amendments to House Joint Resolution 1013 and has repassed the resolution as so amended.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would move that the Senate proceed out of order for purposes of tribute and a number of introductions and moments of personal privilege by various members.
Colleagues, you have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate will proceed out of order for multiple moments of personal privilege. Minority Leader Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you.
Colleagues, could we bring the level of the sound down a little bit? Thank you.
Members, I have important guests joining us today on the floor. It is an honor and privilege to be presenting a tribute today. Joining us are some folks from Bennett High School who have weathered some treacherous roads this morning to join us in the Senate chambers. It's really an honor to host these guys with us today in the legislature. What I wanted to do is share briefly a tribute that I would like to share on behalf of the Colorado State Senate. And it reads as follows. The Senate of the Colorado Legislature, convened in the first regular session of the 70th General Assembly, hereby extends heartiest congratulations and commendation to Bennett High School Palms coaches and team. A tribute to the players and coaches of the Bennett High School Palms team, division winners of the Frontier League and the state champions of the CHSAA or CHASA Division 3A dance competition. In recognition of your amazing efforts and the pride with which you have represented your school, your town, and the state of Colorado, this tribute is presented on behalf of Senate District 29 and the state of Colorado on request of Senator Morgan Carroll, given today at the state capitol, signed President Bill Cadman. Members, please help me welcome and congratulate members of the Bennett Palms team. Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations. Senator Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I request a moment of personal privilege to introduce some foreign dignitaries.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we are truly honored this morning, and let me first ask that you not take any pictures. Members, again, I ask that you not take pictures. They have requested that you not take pictures. It is for a variety of reasons, but I won't go into the reasons. So please do not take pictures. I want to introduce that we are honored to have a group of dignitaries from Iraq, and I'm just going to introduce them, and as I introduce them, they will stand up. And I apologize for any mispronunciations of your names. First, we have Mr. Bassem Al-Amma, who is the Director of Administration and Finance Commission of Integrity. Mr. Ali Dahrahi, who is the head of the voter registration section of the Independent High Electoral Commission. Mr. Itzibam Ali, who is Director General of the Committee Affairs Council of Ministry Secretariat. Mr. Mustafa Akhtab, who is the Director General of the Central Bank of Iraq. Maybe we could get them to provide banking services to some of the businesses in Colorado that can't get banking services. Director, Mr. Nal Al-Maladalawali, Director of Investigations of the Legal Committee, Baghdad Provincial Council. Mr. Marwan Hamad, Director General, Transparency Prevention Office, Iraqi Kurdistan Region Commission on Public Integrity. Mr. Kadhim Mohsen, he's a professor of history at the University of Basra. Ms. Bura Saeed, who is the Chief Auditor of the Supreme Board of Auditing. Mr. Ahmed Salim, Manager, Deputy Commissioner's Office, Commissioner of Integrity. Mr. Ali Taha, member of the Iraqi Kurdistan Parliament, so he's an elected official from Kurdistan. And then 3 interpreters, Rahid Fanari, Muna Abdi, and Dana LC. And we're honored to have you here in the Colorado Senate, and please help me welcome them to our chamber.
We're going to take a couple moments to greet our special guests on both sides of the chamber. The Senate is in recess. The Senate will come back to order, and we are still at moments of personal privilege. Senator Ulibarri.
Thank you, Mr. President. I kindly request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I also have an esteemed guest here with us in the chamber. It is an amazing morning for us to enjoy, I think, the great diversity of this globe and of the city today. I'm here to introduce a member of the French National Parliament, Monsieur Alain Chrétien. He's with us today on behalf of World Denver. For those who don't know, World Denver is an international exchange program, and this is his third stop across the country. He first visited Washington, D.C., then went to Pittsburgh, and is now in Denver and is headed to Seattle to learn about local, state, and federal government systems in the U.S. He has a long history in local government himself, despite his young appearance. He has spent 20 years in public service, first starting off as deputy mayor, moving to county commissioner, then mayor, and then ending up in the French National Assembly. Members, if you have a chance, please say bienvenue and welcome our guest here. Thank you.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is quite a day for meeting new people. And I too happen to have a couple of elite individuals I'd like to introduce to you. Nathan Smith, Superintendent of Del Norte School District. Wendy Malott, President of the Del Norte School Board, are up here visiting, and I thought I would introduce you to these. These are people from the San Luis Valley and some of our elite. If you would please rise, there they are. If you join me in welcoming. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Crowder. Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I also have I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, sir. I'd also like to take a moment to welcome, there are 4 Poudre School District board members here from Fort Collins. We have Susan Gutowski, Kathy Kipp, Carolyn, and David. Please join me in welcoming them then.
Thank you for joining us. Committee reports.
February 26, 2015, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration as a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar to confirm member of the Hospital Provider Fee Oversight Advisory Board for a term expiring May 15, 2017. Catherine G. Nationfelter, Denver, Colorado, serves as an employee of a hospital in Colorado and occasioned by the resignation of Madeline L. Roberson of Greenwood Village, Colorado, appointed. February 26, 2015, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following: House Bill 1067 be amended as follows, and also amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. February 26, 2015, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following: Senate Bill 14 be amended as follows, and also amended before the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
We're going to take another short recess, just like elementary school. The Senate will stand in recess for just a short while. We're almost finished with social hour. The Senate will come back to order. Third reading of bills, consent calendar, Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate lay over Senate Bill 102 to March 2nd.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 102 will lay over until March 2nd. Mr. Majors, please read the title of House Bill 1023.
House Bill 1023 by Representative Valentine and Senator Aguilar concerning the age limitation for persons served in a day treatment center.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adopt the remaining bill listed on third reading of bills for final passage consent calendar, which is House Bill 1023.
Is there any discussion on House Bill 1023? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1023 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Kafalis, Minority Leader Carroll, Senator Todd, Senator Newell, Senator Guzman. Co-sponsors, 1023, Senator Heath. Third reading of bills. Mr. Majors, please read the title to Senate Bill 100.
Senate Bill 100 by Senator Stedman and Representatives Foote and McCann concerning implementation of recommendations of the Committee on Legal Services in connection with legislative review of rules and regulations of state agencies.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 100 lay over to March 2nd.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 100 will lay over till March 2nd. Mr. Majors, please read the title to Senate Bill 104.
Senate Bill 104 by Senator Holbert and Representative Lee concerning the continuation of the Colorado Division of Securities in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2014 census report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 104 lay over to March 2nd.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 104 will lay over until March 2nd. Mr. Majors, please read the title to House Bill 1029.
House Bill 1029 by Representatives Buck and Janal and Senators Kafalis and Martinez Jimenez concerning coverage under a health benefit plan for health care services delivered through telehealth in any area of the state.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1029 on third reading and final passage and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1029? Are there any no votes? Senator Lundberg, Senator Marble, Senator Woods, Senator Lambert, Senator Holbert, Senator Hill, Senator Garcia, Senator Scott, Senator Neville, Senator Baumgardner. Further no votes. With 24 ayes, 10 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1029 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Grantham, Senator Aguilar, Senator Hodge, Senator Crowder, Senator Roberts, Senator Merrifield, Senator Newell, Senator Todd, Senator Sonnenberg. Co-sponsors: General Order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for considerations of General Orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of General Orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Grantham will take the chair.
Committee will come to order. The coat rule is relaxed for everyone except Senator Scott. Mr. Majors, would you please read the titles of all the bills on the General Orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1069 by Representative Wright and Senator Holberg concerning information required to be included in recorded written instruments filed with the county clerk and recorder to claim a homestead exemption. House Bill 1022 by Representative McCain and Senators Stedman and Cook concerning juveniles charged with certain minor offenses. House Bill 1064 by Representative Norberg and Senator Holberg concerning access to the safe deposit box of a descendant and in connection therewith limiting the obligations of custodians who access the box.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee adopt the bills listed on the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1069, House Bill 1022, and House Bill 1064, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of the bills on the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills on the consent calendar are adopted. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had 3 bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
February 27, 2015, Mr. President, the committee whole bank state reports under consideration of following tax bills being second thereof makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1069, House Bill 1022, House Bill 1064 passed on second reading in order to revise placed on the counter for third reading and final passage.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
You have heard the motion. Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 15-1069, House Bill 15-1022, House Bill 15-1064 passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side of House Bill 1029, move for reconsideration.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. House Bill 1029 will be reconsidered. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1029?
House Bill 1029 by Representatives Buck and Janal, Senators Cafalas and Martinez-Shiminik concerning coverage under a health benefit plan for healthcare services delivered through telehealth in any area of the state.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Colleagues, I move Senate Bill 1029 and move to have it adopted, readopted.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1029? Are there any no votes? Senator Hill, Senator Lundberg, Senator Woods, Senator Neville, Senator Lambert, Senator Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Marble, Senator Baumgardner. No votes on 1029. With 25 ayes, 9 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1029 is readopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Roberts, Senator Newell, Senator John, Senator Jones, Senator Garcia, General Order, second reading of bills. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of General Order's second reading of bills. Senator Grantham will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 135?
Senate Bill 135 by Senators Martinez, Shiminik, and John concerning modifications to statutory provisions governing urban redevelopment affecting public bodies in connection with urban renewal projects.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Senate Bill 135 lay over to March 2nd.
You've heard the motion that Senate Bill 135 lay over to March 2nd. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that bill will lay over. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 139?
Senate Bill 139 by Senator Hill and Representative Lee concerning allowing the Safe to Tell program to reveal the identity of a person who makes a fraudulent report in connection therewith requiring a post-enactment review of the implementation of this act.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 139. Colleagues, Senate Bill 139 has to do with Safe to Tell. It's a fantastic program we have here in our communities. Safe to Tell is a program that we've had in place for a while. Recently, we moved it to the Attorney General's office that gives children, it gives teachers.
Senator Hill, is there a Judiciary Committee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Judiciary Committee report to Senate Bill 139.
Do the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, we adopted an amendment in Judiciary where we require a warrant to be used in the case of breaching confidentiality in Senate Bill 139. I'll speak to that maybe when I speak to the entire bill, but ask for your support of the Judiciary Committee report.
Motion before the body is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I appreciate your understanding as I spoke on the bill. Now I'll continue to speak on what Safe to Tell is. It's a phenomenal program we have here that gives parents, it gives teachers, it gives students the chance, if they've got a concern, they've got an anonymous line where they can call in and say they're concerned they heard someone was maybe they had drugs, or they were concerned they were going to kill themselves. They were concerned that they might kill someone else. Really, it provides this a place where it is indeed safe to tell concerns that they have going on, especially around schools. Recently, we moved it to the Attorney General's office, and part of that move had been we had a very strong protections of anonymity within Safe to Tell, which means you can call knowing that you do not have to worry about your identity being given over, even if it turns out some of the things, it was just hearsay, it was just a rumor. We would rather have the information and deal with that and risk the anonymity. However, we've got a problem that comes in along with that anonymity. Over the course of the last couple years, it has, unfortunately, for all the positive cases, for all the deaths that we have stopped because of it, for all the protections that we have put in place, we have also allowed the system to be abused. The system is abused because we've allowed people to use this to, in effect, launder other criminal activity, namely stalking, namely false reports of bombs or firearms. And that's where I am deeply concerned. Many of my school districts are deeply concerned. And it's an important discussion. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to many folks in this building who have had a good discussion. The minority leader has been tremendously helpful in walking through this whole process with me. So I just want to lay out a couple of these issues to say it is it's a complicated issue, but I believe it's an important issue that we do take up today. I could tell you about different testimony where someone's children had been, we've evacuated schools multiple times for multiple threats that again and again have been proven to be false threats. Unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity within this to, because of the confidentiality, to go and figure out who is making false threats, who is making false bomb threats through the Safe to Tell program, and therefore disrupting the entire school day, potentially putting their classmates and their teachers at risk because of what they're reporting. And from a deeper standpoint, creating a potential, the boy who cried wolf kind of problem, where if you keep saying there's a wolf again and again and again, people don't believe you, and then when there really is a wolf, there is not the same level of response. There is not the same necessary reaction to deal with it in a timely manner. And I'm concerned that's what we're doing through the Safe to Tell program. Unfortunately, I can tell you stories about children who have been harassed through this program, where you don't like what someone is doing, you want to bully them. You may use the Safe to Tell program. You may call up and say you think they have drugs in their car, or you heard they were talking about shooting themselves or shooting other people, to the point where even a SWAT team has showed up at people's house repeatedly at 10 o'clock at night, at 11 o'clock at night, at midnight, and as a point of repeated aggravation to these children. It's become such a problem that the word Safe to Tell has become a verb in some of these schools and some of these communities, to this point, to say, well, so-and-so isn't doing what we would like, so-and-so is not playing by the rules, we don't like so-and-so, so we're going to Safe to Tell them. Namely, we're going to launder our complaints, launder what otherwise would be felonies, colleagues, because it is a felony to make a false report about a bomb. It is a felony to harass someone. It is a felony to do these things, and so they're committing what otherwise would be felonies through the Safe to Tell program. But because there's this protection of anonymity, law enforcement, the FBI, are unable to deal with the problem. They are unable to get the information to address the issue. Again, I mentioned the evacuations, I mentioned the harassment, but there's no recourse for what otherwise would be felonies. If you were to call in on your cell phone and call the school and make these false reports of bombs, you could be arrested, you could be charged with a felony for that. However, if you do it through the Safe to Tell line, there is no recourse for the school districts. So what we've done in this committee is say, we had great discussion in committee. Again, I do appreciate everyone who wanted to talk about the different sides of this. The amendment we put on in committee has said, If you go and get a warrant for this and what otherwise would be felonies, we do have a very narrow opportunity, a very limited window to find the identity of those who are using Safe to Tell to launder these felonies. And my goal here in doing it is to say, by keeping this window very narrow, by keeping it down to a search warrant for felonies, my goal is to both protect the overall system as well as to make sure we can get justice for those who are abusing the system to commit these felonies. There's a legitimate concern that this may indeed, by breaching the confidentiality, may indeed undermine the system. And I would say unfortunately, there's also a concern that if we continue down this path without this method, the ability to abuse the system will pull the whole system down as well. So with that, colleagues, I ask for your support on Senate Bill 139. It's an important issue. It's not a simple issue. It's one of these where we've put some guardrails in place, and I believe the guardrails are too tight to both protect our students fully and protect what is a very good program in Safe to Tell. So thank you for tracking through this important discussion with me, and I ask for your support on Senate Bill 139.
Is there any further discussion? Minority Leader Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank my colleague, one of my colleagues from Colorado Springs, on raising the issues that came up with the bill. I'm up here to respectfully ask for a no vote on this bill and give a little bit of history on this. I was one of the sponsors who carried the bill last year that passed unanimously all the way through on lifting the Safe to Tell program into the Department of Law. And in the course of preparing and running that bill, I became an ever stronger believer in Safe to Tell and the importance. We have very few demonstrated successes like we have had with Safe to Tell. This is a really unique, novel program that works only based on two key premises. One, that it's anonymous, that it's anonymous, that it's anonymous. It's the whole premise of the bill. And two, it is not meant to be a tool to prosecute kids. It is meant to prevent harm, and that it has done. Since 2004, Safe to Tell has taken over 12,000 reports. Not all of them have panned out, but some of them had. The data shows that over time, there has been an intervention on over 2,100 suicide attempts, over 630 sexually related crimes, 360 planned school attacks, and the list goes on in the report for what is provided. We may never know which of those would have been fully completed to the end, but what we do know is if we didn't have the tip, none of them would have been prevented by someone who is planning on going forward. It's a phenomenally successful program. But I do think that the sponsor has brought up some concerns that I want to speak to very briefly. Out of all of the successes we have had in here, are there some false reports? And I do think the answer is yes. And before we had Safe to Tell, there were false reports before Safe to Tell. And the law actually prohibits criminally making false reports. And there is a mechanism, albeit you have to actually do some independent investigation in order to figure out who's behind it. If there had never been Safe to Tell, there would be no one to prosecute, there would be no tip to know about. People in the old days could pick up a phone like they did at Boulder High School and make a bomb threat. And everybody, I do not envy, has a tough decision. Do you err on the side of evacuating, knowing it could have been a real bomb, and you may have just saved the lives of all the students and teachers? Or do you not evacuate and know that that could have been a false report? Either way, you're making a judgment call. But long before Safe to Tell happened, school officials and public leaders have had to make these tough choices, and we have always erred on the side of public safety. We have a better way to deal with pranks and false reports. When we were first presenting this bill, we had a couple people ask in committee, well, what happens if you get some false reports in what was in there? And the reality is this has been a long-standing program. The overwhelming majority of what's in here are real reports. They've panned out, they've done well, and it's a trade-off. It is a price we pay for over 12,000 interventions that have saved lives. An anonymous program that is safe to tell is in jeopardy of being unsafe to tell if we pass this. The whole program is premised on being safe to anonymously report. If we remove anonymity, we have just ended safe to tell. I believe there is a better way to address the very real and frustrating circumstance when a few would abuse a system that has worked so well for so many, and would respectfully ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 139? Senator Hill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I hear it. I hear the frustration. I hear the concern. This anonymity is indeed the central tool that we have, and it is necessary that we protect it. I also believe right now it is the central aspect of this program, this completely unbreachable anonymity that puts, in the long run, my concern, the entire program at risk. Because we're able to use that complete anonymity, we create a system, we create a long-term culture in which you may now do the things that we all are opposed to, whether it's the false bomb reports or whether it's just the vicious, evil harassment that has been done, calling the SWAT team to people's house, calling the police to their car, bringing the drug dogs out, ultimately using that process to harass them, that I believe we need to try this. There's a sunset in the bill that says we're going to try it for 2 years and review the impact on that. So I hear the concern. I don't want to diminish that concern. The goal here is, can we protect the system while preserving that anonymity at the same time? So again, I appreciate the dialogue. I think this again highlights some of the important aspects of what we do here, that we do have complicated issues, and I really do appreciate the chance we can have dialogue on it, we can discuss it, and we can put it before 35 members who, despite our frustrations at times, my experience has been every single person in here has a deep and abiding concern that we do the right thing across the community. So I appreciate your consideration on this, and appreciate you entering into the important discussion that we have had here. Ask for your support on 139.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 139? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 139. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and that bill is lost. Mr. Majors, would you please read the bill, read Senate Bill 138, the title II.
Senate Bill 138 by Senator Donovan and Representative Wilson concerning funding for the Accelerating Students Through Concurrent Enrollment Program.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 138 and the Education and Finance Committee reports.
To the Education Committee report.
The Education Committee report reflects the unanimous adoption of a strike below amendment that addressed the issue more effectively, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that report is adopted. To the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee report reflects the unanimous adoption of a technical amendment and a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill allows a local education provider that received Ascent funding to spend unused funds on behalf of a new Ascent program participant. This will allow flexibility by allowing unused funds to roll forward in order to address the timing conflict between college enrollment and the state budgeting process of confirming Ascent funding. Otherwise said, instead of the legislative process holding students back, this bill lets students enroll in post-secondary courses when they need to. We all know that we need to remove barriers for students to utilize this program because statistic after statistic shows that concurrent enrollment results in creating pathways between high schools and institutions of higher education. By voting for SB 138, you will be providing administrative flexibility in order to serve a wider array of students and help create a pathway between our high schools and our institutions of higher education.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 138? Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I tend to like this bill, and I think I'm going to support it. It looks to me like what they do is this, if I could have an open dialogue with the sponsor.
You can ask.
As I understand it, this amount here will come off and go right back into the education fund. And this is a separate form of funding for this.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and I hope that my colleagues did see the revised fiscal note after the strike below was adopted in the Education Committee. A new fiscal note was provided that reports no fiscal impact. So I hope that addresses the issue raised by my colleague.
Also, there will be more
Crowder.
funding. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There will be more funding going toward education on this, with the Ascent being a separate issue.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The funding amounts will stay the same because it will respond to the request of the school district, so that mechanism does not change.
Senator Crowder.
Well, I think it's a good bill. Am I correct in that statement?
Senator Donovan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 138? Seeing none. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder if the bill sponsor could please offer us the full name of the Ascent program rather than just the acronym.
Maybe.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 1? Senator Donovan.
It's accelerating students through concurrent enrollment.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 138? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 138. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. No! That motion is lost. The bill is lost. Mr. Majors, will you please read the title of House Bill 1031?
House Bill 1031 by Representative Winholz and Senator Todd concerning a ban on powdered alcohol.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues. House Bill 1031 excuse me, is a bill that we may or may not have heard of before, the term palcohol. And we've heard probably of maybe the powdered alcohol, but we've never really had a lot of discussion about that down here at the Capitol. Part of the reason for that is that it's a relatively new product. Currently, it has not been approved by the FDA. We've seen that the FDA did approve it, and then they withheld it, and then they pulled it back and said, no, it's not ready for prime time. So as a result of that, we are looking at not a total ban. And unfortunately, the title was submitted, and once the title is submitted, you can't go back and change that. But I think what we're looking at in Colorado is a temporary ban. We are looking at being able to, number one, identify what is this substance, what is it we need to do, and how do we in Colorado need to be prepared. I think that we have learned so much from medical marijuana to recreational marijuana, that we have looked at what are the different kinds of regulations and stipulations that have needed to take place. And it's been a very long, hard process. But I think we do that very intentionally because it is about safety. It is about making sure that we are keeping our citizens safe and that we are also being proactive. That's what this bill is about. Many other states have actually had an all-out ban and have said this is totally banned from our state. We're not going to allow it at all. And I think one of the things that we've learned from our experience is that prohibition doesn't work. When we say, no, it can't happen, we cannot allow it at all, what it does is it makes it more enticing. People say, oh, well, if it's prohibited, then obviously I am more interested in gathering that. The other piece to that is looking at our youth, and of course, that makes it even more appealing to them. We know that alcohol is an age-restricted substance. Alcohol needs to have the same product information, including alcohol content labeling and licensure, if it is going to fairly compete with other alcohol products. So labeling of a product is extremely important. The state's regulatory authority needs to be sure the product is incorporated in rules pertaining to the sale and distribution of alcohol products once it is approved federally. So we had a good discussion in Judiciary Committee, and I really listened to what some of the concerns were that were brought up in the committee by my fellow senators. And so as a result of that, I think the responsible action by the legislature should be to regulate powdered alcohol, to keep it out of the hands of underage drinkers by having it sold in licensed liquor stores where a person must present an ID, a valid ID. And in addition, legalizing powdered alcohol would realize tax revenue for the state, as well as it would be done during doing a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that that is paid into the state and to the citizens of Colorado. I do have an amendment. And
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Majors, would you please read Amendment L008?
Amendment L008 to House Bill 1031 by Senator Carrollman.
Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L010 to House Bill 1031.
Senator Carroll, I have L008 in front of me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I withdraw L008.
And Mr. Majors, I need you to read the title to Amendment L010.
Amendment L010 to House Bill 1031 by
Carroll.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I move L010. So this amendment is a strike below. It basically, instead of banning, prohibiting, and turning it into a misdemeanor, it adds the definition of powdered alcohol to spirituous liquors, which means that it would be treated, regulated on parity with how we handle liquid alcohol. It also adds that because it's a new substance, that if we get new direction from the FDA afterwards, we might need to customize or modify our rulemaking in order. It might not be 100% fit with liquid, but this is just a fundamentally different approach that's treating powdered alcohol exactly the same way we do other spirituous liquors, and invites us to re-examine it again should once the feds wind up doing an FDA approval or not at that point, and would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have a question regarding Amendment L010, and I want to thank the sponsor for bringing it because I was not prepared to support the original bill, but I think this is a much more appropriate direction for us to be going. My question for the amendment sponsor concerns taxation and specifically the state's excise tax on alcohol. If we are to define powdered alcohol within the liquor code as a form of spirituous liquors, how then will excise tax apply to powdered alcohol?
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L010? Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do consider this a friendly amendment. I think part of what we were trying to do is figure out that compromise between what some of our fellow other states in the United States have done in terms of totally banning powdered alcohol to saying we want to be ready. In Colorado, we want to be proactive. We want to make sure that we are looking at the information, that we are regulating it, and that we are looking at it with what the content is, the amount of alcohol that would be included, and to make sure that it is not punishable by law at this point, but that we are moving forward in terms of being ready as soon as the FDA does approve it. And so the second part of this amendment actually is saying if the Federal Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approves the purchase, sale, possession of manufacturing or powdered alcohol in the United States, the state licensing authority shall adopt rules establishing a mechanism for regulating the manufacture, purchase, sale, possession, and use of powdered alcohol. So in other words, the fact that it was approved, it was pulled back, it is probably has a greater likelihood of being approved again. And so the approval may happen after we finish session. And so during that time, then the ruling could already start making sure that it is in place, because it will probably take anywhere from 6 to 9 months or so to actually do the rulemaking. And so it will get them ahead of the game before we even come back next year. So again, I am very much in support of the direction that this amendment is taking the bill, and would urge an aye vote on the amendment.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, I'll ask for an aye vote on Amendment L010, and I have been talking with our drafting staff about some possible approaches to the question I raised a moment ago. And so, but I do think this is far preferable than the original form of the bill that the House sent over to us, and so I'd encourage an aye vote at this point, and perhaps we'll see another amendment in a moment.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We discussed this in committee, and the fine senator from Denver on the committee with me said that she had some problems with the way it was written, and if it's not changed, there will be some shenanigans on the floor. And I concurred with that. I said I'm very hesitant to support this bill as written, but if it's not changed, I too will create some shenanigans on the floor. And the bill sponsor has done the strike below on this amendment, and I fully support the amendment because I think it achieves what we'd like to achieve. So I ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Senator Neville.
No cheating.
Not at all, Senator Todd. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this amendment, this bill went from probably one of the, well, not a real desirable bill in my mind to a bill that's palatable, and I appreciate the senator for bringing this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L010? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L010. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that amendment is adopted. To the bill.
I don't know. Sure.
We need 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I would share with you that when we started talking about this bill, and I first heard about alcohol, it was like, what is this? I really didn't know anything about it. I would urge you to go to www.palcohol.com and listen to and learn from some of the innovation that is taking place. There is a great interest, particularly for people, for portability of using this product. And so looking at it, particularly in Colorado with our many hikers and bikers and people that like to be outdoors but don't want to carry a bottle around with them, they can carry this powdered substance and a bottle of water. And what they need to do is just pour the water into the bag. They can they can consume that, or they can zip it back up and save it for a later time. The important thing is they don't pour it all into their water bottle, because then, as we know in Colorado, we need to keep drinking water. And so if you do that, then you have obviously changed your water content into an alcoholic beverage. It is an interesting and innovative way of looking at selling a product. The main thing we want to do is make sure that there's no confusion that it is an alcoholic product. And so that's part of where we want to make sure that it is following the same laws, the same regulations that we have in Colorado, and the same stipulations. And with that, Senator Stedman, I believe I'm ready to move my bill, unless you had a...
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would request that we stand in a senatorial 5.
Committee will be in a senatorial 5. The committee will come back to order. There is an amendment on the desk.
Here's an extra one.
Yeah, we passed it. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Amendment L011?
Amendment L011, House Bill 1031 by Senator Stebbins.
Senator Stebbins.
Floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Amendment L011. Colleagues, this is the amendment that addresses the issue I raised a moment ago regarding taxation. What we're doing now with House Bill 1031 is, instead of banning this substance altogether, we are fitting it into our existing regulatory scheme. We are including powdered alcohol within the definition of spirituous liquors. So it won't be like beer and wine. We're treating it like liquor because this is very strong when you mix it with alcohol or mix it with water. We have required in the previous amendment licensure so that it is treated just like the distribution and marketing, conditions of sale, all of that will be subject to the same liquor licensing code that we have today. And with Amendment L011, it will be taxed in the same manner as liquid alcohol. Now, this is a little bit of a trick because our excise tax on liquid spirituous liquors is calculated by volume, by liquid volume. And when you've got a powdered substance, it's a little tricky to apply the excise tax on liquid volumes to some amount of powder. And so what this amendment says is that the excise tax will be applied to the amount of liquid that the manufacturer of the powdered alcohol says that you mix the powder with. So if you buy a little envelope and it says mix this with 16 ounces of water, it would be taxed at the rate that the excise tax would apply to 16 ounces of liquor. I think this is a way to not create new taxes for this substance, not create new licensing or regulatory schemes, not create new definitions, but make it fit within our existing liquor code and our existing way we handle alcoholic products in this state. And the previous amendment took care of licensure and took care of the definitional scheme. This amendment takes care of taxation, and I would encourage an aye vote on Amendment L011.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L011? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L011. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. That amendment is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, what we have done now is we have identified what is powdered alcohol, which is very important because most of us probably had not heard of that before. Second of all, what we've done is we have said that if the Federal Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approves the purchase, sale, and possession or manufacturing of powdered alcohol, then we shall implement regulations and rules in Colorado. And what Amendment L011 added to the first bill, or the first amendment L010 that is now the bill, did is actually from our fellow JBC member who is always looking out for taxing and looking for revenue for the state, is being able to identify how that percentage of alcohol per liter is charged. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I urge an aye vote for House Bill 1031, and I believe that this puts Colorado as the leader of the pack, instead of being like some of our fellow states that just simply said, we're going to ban it. We are a state of innovation, we are a state of creativity, and so this is a good creative way of solving a new product to come into Colorado that brings safety to our consumers.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with my fine senator from Aurora. Thank you. Hey, you know, this the strike below really solves all the issues. There was no requirement that the licensing authority in the original bill actually get around to doing it. So this requires them. They shall license it, and it shall be legal once it's approved. So it took care of my concerns, And the fine senator from Denver, his amendment, I would also support it, and I agree that takes care of the issues with this bill. So I would ask for an aye vote as well.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1031. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
Is it time for the bells again? The Senate will come back to order. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
February 27, 2015, Mr. President, your committee, the basic reports under consideration of the following tax bills being second read thereof makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1031 is amended and passed on second reading in order to revise placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 135 laid over until March 2nd, 2015, retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 139 is amended. Senate Bill 138 is amended, lost on second reading.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
There is an amendment. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Amendment 1.
Committee, the whole amendment 1 to Senate Bill 138.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment 001 to SB 138 and ask for an aye vote to show that the bill did pass.
Is there further discussion on the Committee of the Whole Amendment? Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I want to just congratulate the bill sponsor for knowing the acronym, because I know she pulled that right off the top of her head for assent. And this really is a good bill, and ask for an aye vote, and just thank the sponsor for her patience in both the Finance Committee and here on the floor. Good bill, vote yes.
Is there further discussion? Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I have been unfairly accused of flip-flopping on this bill again and again and again. But in deference to the sponsor, I will flip-flop one more time and say, this is a great bill. Please support it.
The sounds of colleagues in safe seats. Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just very briefly, the original program that we are addressing here, I have to brag a little bit. Senator King and I were the first ones who brought this bill forward. I think it's the only, we did two things together in all my time in the House. So, and we came up with that acronym, and I don't know what it means. So I urge you to support this CAL.
Is there further discussion on the Committee of the Whole Amendment? A roll call has been requested. Mr. Majors, please poll the senators.
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar, aye. Balmer. Baumgardner. Baumgardner, aye. Carroll. Carroll, aye. Cook. Cook, aye. Crowder. Crowder, aye. Donovan.
Aye.
Donovan, aye. Garcia. Garcia, aye. Grantham.
Senator Grantham. Wait a minute.
Thank
Voting.
you, Mr. President. I believe I get a couple minutes to explain my vote.
We're in the middle of a vote. I think you get 1 minute actually.
1 minute.
1 minute.
I won't take that long, but I was sitting in the chair for this, folks, and I believe it was pretty clear. This bill failed on a voice vote. But you know what? It's a good bill. And I will vote yes, even though the rest of you voted no the first time around. I will vote yes. It's a good bill.
Anybody else want 1 minute to share? Please continue, Mr. Majors. Grantham was an aye, I believe.
Guzman. Guzman, aye. Heath. Heath, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Hodge. Hodge, aye. Holbert. Holbert, aye. John. John, aye. Johnston, excused. Jones. Jones, aye. Kafalis. Kafalis, aye. Kerr. Kerr, aye. Lambert. Lambert, aye. Lundberg. Lundberg, aye. Marble. Marble, aye. Martinez-Umenig. Martinez-Umenig, aye. Merrifield. Merrifield, aye. Neville. Neville, aye. Newell. Newell, aye. Roberts. Roberts, aye. Sheffel. Sheffel, aye. Scott. Scott, aye. Sonnenberg. Stedman. Stedman, aye. Todd. Todd, aye. Ulibarri. Ulibarri, aye. Woods. Woods, aye. Balmer. Balmer, aye. Sonnenberg. Sonnenberg, aye. Mr. President.
Aye.
Mr. President, aye.
With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the amendment is adopted. We are now to the Committee of the Whole report. Further discussion, Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing, never mind.
Further discussion, Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm wondering whether samples of Senator Todd's product were distributed before the session began this morning, and whether we might need urine drug testing.
We do not refer to our colleagues by their surnames. Is there further discourse? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 138 is amended passed eventually on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1031 is amended passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 135 laid over until March 2nd, 2015 and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 139 as amended lost on second reading. Governor's appointments. Scratch that back up to consideration of resolutions. Mr. Majors, please read the title of Senate Joint Resolution 10.
Senate Joint Resolution 10 by Senator Martinez-Umenig and Representative Melton concerning the importance of self-care and in connection with declaring February 2015 as Self-Care Month.
Senator Martinez-Umenig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 1510, and I am not requesting that it be read at length.
Continue.
And move it for approval.
Is there further discussion on Senate Joint Resolution 10? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 10 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Minority Leader Carroll, Senator Kafalis, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator Grantham, Senator Baumgartner, second wave, Senator Neville, Senator Lundberg, Majority Leader Scheffel, Senator Scott. Further co-sponsors: Self-Care Month, there we go, Senator Kerr, Senator Woods, Senator Heath. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Mr. Majors, would you please read Majority Leader Scheffel?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate lay over consideration of House amendments to Senate bills, which include Senate Bill 85 and Senate Bill 161, to March 2nd.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Consideration of House amendments to Senate Bills 85 and 161 will lay over until March 2nd. Consideration of governor's appointments. Mr. Majors, would you please read governor's appointments?
Members of the Board of Trustees of Metropolitan State University of Denver for a term expiring December 31st, 2015, Elaine Gantz Berman of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and occasioned by the resignation of Melody Harris of Denver, appointed for a term expiring December 31st, 2018. Barbara Barnes Grogan of Denver, Colorado, serves as a Democrat, appointed.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Senate confirm. Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate confirm the appointment of Elaine Gantz Berman and Barbara Barnes Grogan to the Board of Trustees of Metropolitan State University of Denver.
You have heard the motion. Is there further discussion? Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the appointments of the Board of Trustees of Metropolitan State University of Denver, Elaine Gantz Berman, Barbara Barnes Grogan, are confirmed. Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 187 by Senator Grantham and Representative Young concerning authorization for the High Performance Transportation Enterprise to deposit money received as a loan from the State Highway Fund to a separate account within the Statewide Transportation Enterprise Special Revenue Fund.
Senate Bill 187 is assigned to appropriations.
Senate Bill 188 by Senator Stedman and Representative Rankin concerning the use of the first tier statutory allocated tobacco litigation settlement money in connection therewith making an annual statutory allocation of such money to the tobacco settlement defense account of the tobacco litigation settlement cash fund and making an offsetting reduction in the annual statutory allocation of such money to the Children's Basic Health Plan Trust, authorizing the Department of Revenue to use money in the tobacco settlement defense account for settlement enforcement related activities and making an appropriation.
Senate Bill 188 is assigned to appropriations.
Senate Bill 189 by Senator Stedman and Representative Rankin concerning the repeal of consolidated tobacco settlement program monitoring and reporting requirements.
Senate Bill 189 is assigned to appropriations.
Senate Bill 190 by Senator Grantham and Representative Hamner concerning the repeal of the requirement that the Executive Director of the Department of Personnel promulgate rules to establish state archives fees.
Senate Bill 190 is assigned to appropriations.
Senate Bill 191 by Senators Scheffel and Carroll and Representatives Duran and Del Grosso concerning payment of expenses of the Legislative Department.
Senate Bill 191 is assigned to appropriations. Message from the House.
February 27, 2015, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted the advisory statutes. House Bill 1035 is amended. The House has postponed indefinitely. Senate Bill 52, the bill is returned herewith.
Message from the Reviser.
February 27, 2015, we herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1035.
Signing of bills.
February 27, 2015, the President has signed Senate Bills 10, 8, 108, 112, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 160, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, and 170. Senate Joint Resolutions 7 and 9, and Senate Memorial 1.
Committee reports.
February 26, 2015, Mr. President, the Committee on Education has had our consideration as a hearing on the following appointment. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirm. Member of the Colorado School of Mines Board of Trustees for a term expiring December 31, 2018, Richard Harrison Truly of Golden, Colorado, an unaffiliated who is not a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines, reappointed. February 26, 2015, Mr. President, the Committee on Education has had under consideration as at a hearing on the following appointment and recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirm. Member of the State Board for Community Colleges and Occupational Education for a term expiring December 31, 2015. Byron Nelson McClenny, of PhD of Evergreen, Colorado, serves as resident of the 2nd Congressional District and as a Democrat, and occasioned by the resignation of Bernadette B. Marquez of Denver, Colorado, appointed.
Announcements. Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder for our Appropriations Committee, I did make it around to I think each of you, but for those that might have a bill coming up for appropriations, I will come back to you. We will be having it on Tuesday morning, special Appropriations Committee meeting at 8 o'clock, and that will be in our usual room up in 356. So Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock, Appropriations Committee.
Is there further discussion on that announcement? Further announcements. Colleagues, I just want to encourage you to review the note that was put on your desk this morning that was from the leadership. It is a reminder of the decorum of the chamber. Some of you need it more than others. Some of you that are right now shredding that piece of paper to put into a trash can. I won't mention who it is. Will I? Please review that. We need to tighten up the decorum and the process here a little bit, and we are going to implement, which is not on that, we are going to implement the brand new program called Dollars for Demerits. You can probably guess what that means, and it's been somewhat of a long-standing tradition in both bodies to have encouraging fines for learning. So bring plenty of ones, some of you. Majority Leader Scheffel. Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the Dollars for Demerits, can we get a prepaid card to help us with that?
The Metro legislators don't make enough to generate a prepaid card. Senator Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, just a reminder, it is listed in the calendar, notwithstanding the fact that it is Friday. There are two committees meeting. Capital Development Committee will meet upon adjournment, and Joint Technology Committee is meeting at 1:30. With that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate adjourn to 10 a.m. Monday, March 2nd.
You have heard the motion. Let's thank Senator Scheffel for setting up the bells this morning for us with his daughter and the quite inspiring. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The Senate will be adjourned until 10 a.m. Monday, March 2nd.